Alright, good morning everybody. Let's see if this video stops before I say thank you for listening. Have a good day. Let's see if it doesn't get published to my account. I'm making these statements because of massive experience when it comes to gang stalking, phone hacking. Hold on a second. I gotta, okay. Alright, I had to do something there. Hold on one more second. Alright, I'm just making fast predictions because I can't let this video interrupt my schedule concerning what I gotta do. Woke up a little late, so, I'm just gonna make fast predictions. I'm not going to go into a I'm not going to go into a bunch of statements concerning, gang stalking. I'm going to the Octopus Tree location to retrieve some property today. So here are the predictions, and then I'm gonna let you go. Let's see if anybody's hiking out or camping out on the property or hanging out on it. That includes, homeless people, punks, criminals, crazies, social deviants, anyone. Let's see if any of my property has been confiscated or stolen or damaged. Let's see if anybody comes on the property while I'm there. And that includes as I'm entering it, while I'm there, and as I'm leaving. I am referring to gang stalking crimes. Now, let's see, and this applies for all dates that I go to the Octopus Tree location. Let's also see if anybody reports me going into it, being on the property, and or leaving it. That includes also public workers, property owners, police, anybody of any age. Now, that's the predictions, but I want you to also know all gang stalking predictions are an extreme massive emergency effect. Gang stalking crimes need to repeat behaviors that they know that they have repeated in the past. Hold on one second. Because a huge aspect of gang stalking, I'd say at least 90% of what happens to all gang stalking victims has to do with auditory and visual brain entrainment. And they need to create anchors between the victim and them in order to associate themselves negatively to this crime in the target's mind. And with me, they've been, in a huge way, they've been associating themselves to this crime by, all gang stalking is victimization. So what this crime does in part is that it creates a negative association between the victim and themselves, and makes sure that the victim knows that the victimization is done through this crime, and that's how the act and the things that they do become anchored. Hold on, I gotta sneeze. Hold on. Oh, excuse me. And that's how they anchor the action in the victim's mind to this crime to them, in order to create the association. Therefore, the act becomes anchored in the victim's mind and to them, and negatively. And that's how the anchor is formed. And then, as a direct result, the victim ends up having thinking responses, emotional responses, and even how brain states can be excited, and then therefore you have thinking responses. If I didn't say that, I'm just waking up, so bear with me. And then that's what then proceeds into the brain entrainment related to the subject matter of all victimizations. So the only way that they can keep brain entrainment alive is by and through repeating identical events, repeating events that have attributes of the prior events that are related to the anchoring. So you should research the sensitization method of gang stalking, dark neurolinguistic programming, technique of gang stalking, the direct conversation method of gang stalking, intentionally perpetrated traumas and victimizations in gang stalking. So I've talked about brain entrainment in many of the videos dedicated to the profile, this Periscope account, and 4 other ones. I've detailed it extensively. So I'm not going to go into, this is not an educational video concerning brain entrainment. The only way this crime is massively involved in numerous different types of victimizations, okay, in order to keep that entrainment alive. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to let you go because I got stuff to do and I'm already falling behind schedule this morning. So if I go on that property and I discover anybody on it, the reason why they'll be intentionally propped up, which they know you can't prove that they were intentionally propped up, they absolutely rely on plausible deniability, excuses. Oh, well, it's a wooded area, so homeless people are known to camp out at wooded areas. That's their plausible deniability. Oh, your property got confiscated by a public worker because the property owner and the state kind of worked together in reference to keeping that particular property cleaned up. So you see, there's their plausible deniability. That's their normal apparent excuse concerning why the property got confiscated. Now, before which is why they will anchor associations between the victim and the homeless people on prior dates. That's why they'll anchor the association between the victim and the property owner and public workers on prior dates. That's why they will anchor the associated behaviors on prior dates when staged events have taken place, and that's related to the things that they purposely cause the victim to see and or hear before, during, and after the staged event. Because when you can anchor an association in the victim's mind to this crime, to the victimization, then when they repeat identical acts in the future, they know the victim's brain then will recognize that this current event is related to gang stalking, because what is occurring during the current event has identical attributes or things being done and presented to the target in real time during the current event that were repeated on prior events. As a direct result, the electromagnetic response in the brain fires and remote neural monitoring latches onto it. So I'm going to go out of my way here in the near future. I'm going to upload some exposures concerning the Brian 2 hypothesis, so I can all right, hold on a second, because I'm looking for something. I'm going to go out of my way here in the near future to attach and paste some links concerning the Brian 2 hypothesis. Hold on one more second. I'm a little bit distracted here because I'm doing some things while I'm talking to you. Hold on. Oh. So when gang stalking stages an event against a victim, it anchors an action, a sound, a word, a phrase, a color in the victim's mind to that current event. Now, the current event could be an event where the victim discovers property theft, property damage, property confiscation, and then that way, so that when the victim notices the victimization of the theft or damage to the property, then something is done or said or presented within the community, and as the victim is becoming aware of it, that the crime will prop up, so that the victim will know that the crime is attached to gang stalking. I'll give you a fast excuse. Many times when I've been at coffee shops and libraries and have seen my blog, the contents of my blog, disappear right before my eyes as I'm enduring that in real time, because it's a staged, synchronized event. They know you're in your blogs. They can see you're in your blog through computer hacking. They can see what you're doing in your blog. Okay, they can see you're typing in it. They can see you're scanning through it. They can see you're attaching things in it. So what they'll do is, while you're in the blog and you're doing work in it, because they're monitoring every second of your behavior in your blog as you're in it. So what they'll do then is they'll erase all the contents of your blog in real time while you're looking at it. Hold on one second. And then as they do that, they'll have an idiot go right by you, walk right by you, or they'll use somebody who is sat down right next to you or a couple tables over, and they'll say gang stalk, and maybe put their hands to their face, mouth, face, nose, or make a particular sound as you're enduring that victimization in real time as it's happening. They'll say or do these things because they know your brain is going to recognize those things being done to the blog disappearing before your eyes. Now, trust me when I say, hold on a second. Trust me when I say I got 18 full years of experience of these satanic mass murdering, gang raping whores concerning what they do. It's called mind pattern programming, where they will commit an act and then intentionally associate themselves to that act, so you then end up having a thinking response, an emotional response. So a brain state can be just excited at the time the event is unfolding, like anger, hate, And so when you're in real time seeing the entire contents of your blog being erased, let's say if you got number 1 through 5, right? And you're looking at your blog as number 1 is being counted. As number 1 is going from 2 to 3, you then see the entire contents of your blog disappearing before your eyes. And as you're enduring that between number 2 through 3, a person will walk by you and say, "Gang stalk, oh my God, what happened?" Okay? So that's a synchronized time staged event. That way, the victim will know, even though the victim already knows it because the victim's experienced it before. But that's how gang stalking will excite a brain state so that remote neural monitoring can latch on to the brain as a result of the brain. See, when the blog is being intentionally, purposely, when the account is being intentionally hacked and the contents is being erased, well, they already know the victim is going to recognize that act alone as being something connected to gang stalking because they know the victim has experienced it on numerous dates before. But you see, they want to make sure, though, that the brain gets excited enough so that the brain will emit that electromagnetic response as that current victimization is being experienced by the victim. Now, is that because when the target notices that the contents of their blogs have been erased, that then produces frustration, anger, hate, and so on? Now, those are brain states and emotional clusters, right? So they want to make sure that remote neural monitoring can be latched onto the victim as the victim is experiencing those brain states and emotions and any thinking responses as the victim is realizing the victimization. Okay? So because remote neural monitoring wants to be able to identify the potentiated frequency outputs of the emotional clusters, the brain states, and the thinking responses, which are EEG signatures that emit frequencies. Now, remote neural monitoring wants to be able to identify those, so those then can then be used on later dates for neural hacking. So, right when the blog is being seen, that it's being disappeared, the contents of it being disappeared before the victim's eyes, right at that split second and moment in time is when the brain states and the thinking responses and the emotions are going to be induced. So they want to be able to make sure they're able to neurally hack the brain as that's occurring, and then so as a direct result, they'll have somebody go by and say gang stalk as the victim is enduring it as it's occurring. That guarantees remote neural monitoring a neurological access so it can identify the brain states, the thinking responses, and the emotions experienced as they experience the blog's contents being erased. So do you understand? So you might think to yourself, well, how would they be able to neurally hack a victim at a wooded area? Well, it's being widely reported by many people, doctors, scientists, and more, that that Wi-Fi is being used for remote neural monitoring on a huge, massive scale. And if you don't think these 6 satanic mass-murdering bitches can't fucking prop up a portable Wi-Fi box at a wooded area property, think again. I've even seen that type of shit showcased in movies connected to things that organized crime does. Oh, absolutely. All right, so I'm going to let you go. So we're going to see if there's been any property confiscation. We're going to see if anybody is in possession of any of my property. We're going to see if there's anybody hiking out or camping out on a property. Because what you got to understand in gang stalking is that gang stalking knows that they have used homeless people in the past to assault you. They know that they have used homeless people in the past to stage intense psychological intimidation by and through staged events, which includes confrontations. So they know that they know your property is on the property. They know in the past that they have intentionally anchored themselves in your mind to be associated to property theft and property damage of your property. They know that you know that they've used homeless people in the past. So these are all anchored acts that have already been cultivated in the victim's thinking process to be acts associated to this crime. So they believe all they got to do is repeat things that are similar, okay, to prior events, because then when those prior events were perpetrated, that excited prior thinking responses, emotional responses, and brain states. Therefore, they believe that all they got to do is prop up acts, okay, and behaviors during the current event that has similar attributes to prior events, and then it will excite the response. So do you see how, in part, this is a very small example about how brain entrainment is being done and how it's being related intentionally to victimizations. Okay? That would be like if your neighbor walked up to you and said, you know that known neighborhood punk that walks up and down the street a lot, okay, and then the neighbor will say, okay, you mean, are you talking about the guy that dresses a certain way? And the neighbor will say, yeah, you know, the guy that's always walking up and down the street wearing funny clothes and a certain type of leather jacket and so on. And so the neighbor says, you know that guy, as he's talking to another neighbor. And he'll describe the guy, and then the guy will say, yeah, I know who you're talking about. And then he'll say, well, this guy has been known to be breaking into neighbors' garages and homes, right? Now, once this neighbor who's being told this is aware that this neighborhood punk is breaking into homes and garages, every time in the future when that punk walks up the street and the neighbor sees them, it will excite that memory and that knowledge in that person's mind because he's been told a negative thing about it. And everybody on this planet, their property is property that is used to assist in survival and or comfort. So those are things that are always going to be remembered by the brain because the brain's limbic system stores data in it that's related to survival. And one of the biggest things this crime does is create entrainment to the limbic system, which is why they make victims homeless, which is why they assault victims, which is why they will rape and rob victims, which is why they'll threaten victims, which is done through dark neurologistic programming techniques. So, hold on. So now that this neighbor has been told about what he's been told about this neighborhood punk, every time he sees that neighborhood punk, the memory will be stimulated concerning what he's been told about him. Well, that's the same concept concerning brain entrainment. Because in gang stalking crimes, these 6 satanic cores, intentionally cultivate and create negative associations between the victim and them and acts that they perpetrate. Therefore, in the future, whenever they prop up any act, say if they got you sensitized to a car muffler, that's a certain sound of a car muffler, they've had muffler harassment going on around me for the past 3.5 years on a nonstop scale because I've been picking. This crime made me homeless because I've been picking wooded areas that have been not too far off of roads. Go to Google and type in muffler harassment and gang stalking. Okay? And trust me, you'll find it. It's related to the sensitization technique. So, since they're illegally tracking you, which is part of the stalking of gang stalking, they know where you're at. So they say to themselves, okay, so she's by a road. We know we made her homeless so we can see why she's by the road because she has been there overnight through the in real-time tracking. They can determine how long you're at a certain spot. And so they say to themselves, okay, well, what is part of gang stalking? The sensitization method, which is where the anchoring comes into place at, where they anchor these certain negative associations between the victim. And since loud mufflers is part of gang stalking sensitization technique, Google all my statements, they know that they will be able to sensitize that victim to loud mufflers against that victim's will. Okay? Because of the way sensitization is formed and how often it's done concerning what's propped up related to it. Right? So I could go to the Octopus Tree location today and discover any or all property confiscated and or damaged and or in the possession of someone. And as I'm experiencing that, they'll have loud mufflers go by that have been used on over 1,000 occasions. Literally. And I'm talking about including certain specific vehicles that emit specific muffler sounds. And trust me when I say, if you're a gang stalking victim who has experienced this, those fellow victims know exactly what I'm talking about. Say if you got a car that's been retrofitted, to make a specific, unique muffler sound as it goes by. Excuse me. Because that's another thing gang stalking does. It will intentionally retrofit a car so that car will intentionally emit a specific type of unique, specific muffler sound when it goes by. So if you had a victim who stayed at a wooded area for 2-3 years, and every single day, and even at night, they'll have this fucking psycho go by, along with many other vehicles that that also had retrofitted mufflers. They'll have them go by over 3,000 times in 3.5 years. So you honestly think that the victim won't recognize that muffler to be associated to this crime? Of course they already know it will, because that's how sensitization is formed. Okay, by and through massive repetition. So they know the victim's brain is going to recognize that specific, unique sound coming from that vehicle. The vehicle itself was retrofitted to emit that particular sound. Literally. I know it sounds crazy. I'm just educating you concerning what these 6 satanic rats do. Now, when a person, that's like sitting on your porch and trying to have some peace and relaxation, and a specific car will go up and down your street 30 times in an hour. Okay? Anybody will find that extremely annoying. Well, that's what gang stalking does. Gang stalking will intentionally prop up an asshole that has got a retrofitted muffler. Hold on a second. That is, and they'll have that asshole go up and down the street 50 times. Hold on a second. In a matter of 2 hours. I'm trying to do something. Bear with me a second. This is literally how bad gang stalking is. I watch these little fucking satanic bitches. I've seen motorcycles and cars with these retrofitted mufflers be parked on the side of the road. And then, because when you're multitasking, that will cause the victim to fall off the electromagnetic. Hold on one second. I'm trying to get something done here, so I gotta get shit done while I'm talking to you. Give me a second here. Okay, I can't go into a long drawn out discussion concerning these psycho horrors, but let me just put it to you this way: when you research the sensitization technique in gang stalking, including to muffler, loud mufflers, loud construction noise, loud landscape noise, okay, color-coded vehicles, okay, when you research the sensitization method of gang stalking to how certain sounds are anchored in a victim's mind, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. Now, that's what gang stalking does. Gang stalking needs to excite that electromagnetic response in your brain by propping up something that's been anchored in your brain that's associated to them. That way, and now this is related to the 2 hypothesis, okay? That way, every time the brain recognizes what's been propped up, it excites that response. Now, you can anchor an action in a human being's mind to this crime. That way, whenever the action is repeated, the brain will recognize it to be related to this crime. It will then excite the electromagnetic response, and then remote neural monitoring latches onto you. Okay? So I wanted to tell you, my fellow American citizens, before I moved from the Octopus Tree location, I made several prediction videos concerning property confiscation, property theft, homeless people camping out on the property and then being discovered when I go back to get my property. I made many prediction videos. A few of them are in this account. Other ones are in another Periscope account dedicated to my other phone. So I have already made prediction videos concerning the Octopus Tree location that were made in October, November, and December 2020. So we're going to see if any of those predictions come true. All right, I got to let you go. Thank you for listening. When I go to approach the Octopus Tree location, I'll turn this phone on and try to bring up Periscope so I can videotape anything that occurs before I enter it and as I'm entering it. So stay tuned to this account. I got to go. Research what I stated in this video and you will see truth. I literally got to go. Have a good day, everybody.